Well, I decided to call the book Small Fry because it's a term of endearment, but it was also a good period in my life with my parents. My father was kind of coming by and taking me on skates, trying to get to know me more, and my mom and I were doing well. We were living in a house. He was helping more with money, and so he would call me Small Fry, which I thought meant like the crusty French fry at the bottom of the bag. I called him Fat Fry. And I realized later it's a term of endearment. It's the fish that are too small, and so instead of eating them or cooking them, they throw them back into the sea for time to grow.
Yeah, that's
fry
right.
is an old word. It's in Shakespeare, and so that's why.
So tell me about...
Yes, I am small. You must know.
Well, there's a cute picture in your book of you and your dad, and he's like swinging you around or something, right? So, I mean, yeah, we're all small at one point or another, right? So tell me...
That's what I should have said. We're all small inside.
All small inside. Tell me, you just kind of hinted that he wasn't there. Did your mom and dad separate when you were young?
They were never married.
Oh.
And they had me quite young. I was an accident, a mistake, and they were both 23. And that sounds young, but I have to say, until I went back and wrote it and imagined myself in those places again, I hadn't realized how incredibly young it actually is, because I was in my mid-30s writing this book, and so not only did I get to spend time with the child version of me and all of her wishes and hopes, but I also got to spend time with my super young parents and realized just how incredibly young they were.
That is cool. Did writing the book help you understand their world a little better?
I think so. I think it just doesn't work on the page unless people become human, and they're not human unless you understand them. And also, of course, I wanted to be able to be honest about people and about events, and only if I was honest about myself did I get the permission to be, honest, warts and all, about everybody. So it was meaningful to go and find these humans, these young humans there, trying so hard and passionate and temperamental and making huge mistakes and doing huge things right, where before there had only been these figures, only been my parents, and then I got to sort of uncover them.
And throughout this process, you were actually researching your past by interviews and things like that.
Yeah, I think in order to get enough detail, I was terrified when I got the book contract that I wasn't going to be able to come up with enough detail to write a whole memoir, and I think in the end, I probably wrote 7 books, factual books, for this one.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it turns out when you spend a lot of time, you find a lot of things there that you had thought you'd forgotten. And one of the ways that I could unearth memory was to go back and talk with people at the time, my parents' exes, and go back to the houses I lived in and create a timeline based on more publicly known things. That was helpful. And then we moved a lot, which actually is helpful too, because then you have like a demarcation at every move. But you have to really interrogate your past to get the richness out of it, I think.
We were told once by an author the difference between a memoir and an autobiography is that a memoir is your memories, whether you did research to verify your own memory or not. But it sounds like this could be considered an autobiography because you have done the research.
I think I would define it differently.
Okay.
I think a memoir needs to be factually based because it's nonfiction. So it is, but I think the primacy of thoughts and feelings is important in a memoir, and those obviously aren't as factually based, although they are either true or false, so it's important to stick with the truth. But I think memoir is different. The difference between memoir and autobiography is memoirs are done by people who aren't necessarily famous or accomplished. That if you're anyone and you can tell your story compellingly enough to make it compelling, then it has merit on the shelves. And so I think that's why memoir as a genre is maybe looked down on or seen as lesser, because it's threatening to people. It can be threatening. I mean, a teacher told me this once. It can be threatening to people in power because anyone can write one.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
And obviously, I'm fairly young, and I'm not accomplished in other ways. but I felt that this story had meaning, and so I wrote it, and that's what makes it a memoir, not that it's not factual, because it is.
But it's a memoir while simultaneously telling your dad's story. Is that fair to say?
I don't think so. I mean, I do think that because he's my father, he is caught up into the net of my story. I mean, that's everyone's collateral damage kind of in a memoir. But it really is a story of my coming of age. I think that I'm the last person to talk about my father's work life, which is what most people are really interested in. And I think also having a famous father, you kind of have to share him with everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, this was a way to come to terms and to fully know who my father was for me, not as a public figure. Because obviously the public part is less important to me.
Yeah, I think we love that, by the way. I think the average person loves knowing that you are a normal person and you go through some of the same challenges and self-doubt that all of us do. I think that's an important thing for the rest of us for some reason.
Yeah, I really love the fact that people sometimes pick it up thinking it's some sort of celebrity memoir and it's going to be glossy and people are going to be portrayed in a superficial and maybe perfect way. And then they read it and they find themselves on the pages. They think it's this extraordinary story, and then they find it has so much in common with their own childhood, and maybe it makes them remember parts of their childhood that they had forgotten. Even though my circumstances and the outline seem extraordinary, there must be some universal human root at the base of things, because people have found a lot of themselves in it.
And becoming a very new parent yourself, congratulations, by the way. Do you find yourself looking back on your childhood that you would raise your baby differently?
He's so cute.
I bet he is.
14 months. He's so cute.
Oh, congratulations. All brand new. I love that.
Thank you. So I think that was part of the reason. That was the impetus to write this book, and in part was like, if I really understood things, I could not repeat them because I had really taken the time to understand what things meant to me. And then the other thing is, like, my childhood had gone so quickly. It was so extraordinary. These young and charismatic and incredible parents and all of this light in Northern California, and then it had gone so quickly. Like, once my dad had taken me to play hooky, and then I thought we'd go many times, and that was it, but I got to write this book, and I got to play again, right?
That's a cool way. So, yeah, I love that. So, oh my gosh, we should all do that. We should all just write, whether we're good at writing or not, right? Whether we're going to publish.
But then I thought, in some ways, I kind of had to let it go. It was so good and bad in places. I mean, it's not a memoir of suffering, it's a memoir of growing up, so it has all of that stuff in it. But it was good and bad in places, but it had gone so quick, it had been this flash, so before I had my own family, I also just wanted to live in it again.
Yeah,
and
that's
so get
sweet.
It out of my system, understand it so that I got all the meaning from it, and then I could finally let it go. So it hasn't felt like, oh, now I have a child, I understand it all so differently. It's felt like, oh, thank God I got through all that, and now I can really enjoy this part of my life.
Oh, I love that. Perfect.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. Okay, I have a copy of Small Fry.
It's a wonderful book.
Funny thing to say, isn't it? Call me if you like the one that was sent to me. I found it on Amazon. You're getting some really good reviews, and I was wondering if you have a different website you'd like to direct us to.
I think Amazon is fine. Independent booksellers are great. And my website is lisabrennanjobs.net.
Is it at the Apple Store? It should be at the Apple Store.
That's right.
I think it's not at the Apple Store. I'm not sure it should be at the Apple Store. But you can get other things at the Apple Store, should you so wish.
Lisa, thank you for being on the show. You're very sweet. I love the fact that you have good memories of your mom and dad. So many times we have authors with memoirs and they hated them. So I'm glad you loved your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I do.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
I have so many more questions, but obviously the time you've got to go and talk to other people. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.